This is Sarah Squires bringing you behind the headlines in today's edition of WyoToday Newsroom. Today, I am joined by U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman. Welcome to the show, Representative Hageman.
Sarah, it's always good to be with you.
It feels like so much has happened since we last talked up in D.C. I think the last time we spoke, we were kind of in the throes of the long, protracted government shutdown. And, I know that we have the vote that passed that kind of reopened the government here. But I think for a lot of federal agencies, that funding just extends to the end of January. And maybe folks kind of don't know what the next step here is. So Representative Hageman, can you kind of roll out what we're looking at down the line here when it comes to the federal funding?
Well, of course, and I am very pleased that we finally have the government back open and moving forward with funding the programs that we should be funding, paying our employees, making sure that our military is taken care of, et cetera. What we're doing is, yes, we did a CR, but what we also did with that continuing resolution that we adopted in November was that we also passed 3 appropriations bills, including the legislative budget. And what that means is in the event that the Democrats, again, tried to shut down the government in the future, we would be able to continue to pay our employees, which I think is an important point. But with those 3 appropriations bills, we funded about 11% of the government. And so that side of the government will not be, again, subjected to any kind of a shutdown. We have funded those programs. Those will be funded through the September 30th of next year. That includes, we extended the funding for the Farm Bill. We did the ag appropriations, so it takes care of your SNAP benefits and things like that. So I think it becomes there's a lot less incentive to shut down the government now, just because it's going to have a negative impact on fewer people. How about if I put it that way? But now we're continuing to go forward with our other appropriations bills. We still have 9 appropriations bills that we need to finish. I believe that it was reported yesterday that Mike Johnson is going to be putting the NDAA, or the National Defense Authorization Act, on the floor. Obviously, that focuses on funding our military and our defense. And so that is an important step forward, and that should be hitting, I think that's going to hit the floor either this week or next week, but I'm hoping it's this week. And then again, we'll continue working on our appropriations bills, and I think that by that January 30th deadline, if I had my way, we would have all 9 of the bills done. But every single bill that we get done, it funds another portion of the government for the period of time up to September 30th, the end of the fiscal year. This is what I have been advocating for a long, long time. What has happened over time is that Congress has gotten used to doing what are called omnibus spending bills. And if you'll remember, every December, you end up with about a 2,000-page or 3,000-page monstrosity where the government tries to fund everything and then a lot more through that process, and nobody knows what in the heck the government has done. By going through and doing individual appropriations bills, we have a much better understanding of what we're funding, what we may be cutting, and the American people do too.
Well, lots to come on that front. One thing I've been reading about lately is the Commercial Motor Vehicle English Proficiency Act, which I know that you have been a leader on. And I'm wondering if you can kind of spell out what this legislation would do here on the ground for folks.
So what I keep coming back to, and I think that I have indicated this perhaps before on this program, I know I've talked about it on other programs, but earlier this year, I have a nephew who has a trucking company. He has a couple of trucks and hauls cattle, and he got a hold of me and he indicated that they're having all kinds of accidents with people who clearly cannot speak English, and they do not know how to drive on our roads. And we started investigating it, and we found out that there had been a rule in place for many, many, many years that required English language proficiency in order to get a CDL or a commercial driver's license. And it's not just that you can speak the language, but perhaps even more importantly, as you're driving across the highways, being able to read the language, being able to read the maps, being able to read the warning signs on the highway, understanding how to drive under our road conditions. And in 2016, President Obama nullified that regulation. I wasn't aware of that. I don't think most people were. And what happened is we had the non-English speaking truckers just absolutely exploded, especially under the Biden administration, because we now have a pretty good idea that there are a lot of CDL mills out there where people can go and buy CDLs, regardless of whether they can drive the trucks or not, and as importantly, regardless of whether they can speak English. So as soon as I learned that, we got a hold of Secretary Duffy in the Department of Transportation, informed him of this situation. He immediately adopted another rule imposing English language proficiency and also tightening other aspects of the fraud associated with CDL licenses. And we're moving forward with codifying all of these requirements. We do not want people. A lot of the truck drivers come from Russia. They come from Kazakhstan. They come from Ukraine. These are people who cannot read our language. They cannot speak our language, and they're putting people in grave, grave danger. We've seen horrific accidents lately as these drivers have been incapable of driving on our highways, yet are driving 18-wheelers down the road at 80 miles an hour.
Yes, that's definitely something that hits close to home, I think, for folks, who've been through the outcome for some of those issues. Now, I know this is an issue that we've touched on, but I know it's also something I think that's incredibly important here in Wyoming for folks, and it has to do with the Buffalo RMP and kind of the opening up of the coal industry here and getting that that regulation sort of out of the way. So what can you tell us about what's going on and what the action that's been taken on repealing the Biden-era Buffalo RMP?
Well, this is also something that's very, very exciting, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done and that my staff has done with this as well. Under the Biden administration, Tracy Stone Manning was the head of the BLM, and one of her goals has always been to stop fossil fuel development and use in this country. She's really quite a very radical woman. And one of the things that they did is they adopted both the Miles City RMP and the Buffalo RMP. An RMP is a resource management plan, and it's a document that's done pursuant to FLTMA, or the Federal Land Policy Management Act. If you go to FLTMA, there are certain uses of our federal land: mining, grazing, oil and gas development, recreation, rights of way. Those are the things that are approved for use for our federal lands. But under Tracy Stone Manning and the Biden administration, they really wanted to elevate, quote, conservation over and above everything else. And they also wanted to stop all fossil fuel development. So one of the things that they did, and it's one of the most radical things that's ever come out of the federal government when you sit back and think about it, and you think about the energy demand in this country. But what they did is they adopted a moratorium to stop all coal production in the Powder River Basin in the near future. Now, they claimed that wouldn't go into effect until like 2040, but that's untrue, because the fact is they knew that it would start having ricochet effects right now, because now is when these coal companies, number one, expand, get their permits, renew their permits, get their financing, buy equipment, all of that. This moratorium had a devastating impact on our coal industries in the Powder River Basin. Now, think about this. Coal is the largest resource for electricity production in the United States, and Wyoming, most specifically the Powder River Basin, is the largest coal producer in the nation. We power this country. We power this country, and the Powder River Basin is absolutely critical to being able to meet the demand. You've got all of this increased demand with data centers, with AI, with the race against China to be able to succeed in controlling AI into the long distant future. All of these things at the very same time that the Biden administration was trying to absolutely destroy our ability to produce energy domestically in this country, and it just made absolutely no sense. So in 1996, Congress adopted what was called the CRA, or Congressional Review Act. And what it does is it allows Congress to review any kind of a rule or agency action, a guidance document, a letter, instructions, anything that is issued by an administrative agency, Congress has the authority to review it. And if we disagree with what that agency has done, keep in mind, we're the legislative branch. If we disagree with what that legislative agency has done, we can issue a resolution called a CRA, or a Congressional Review Act. And if both houses of Congress pass that CRA, it goes to the president's desk and he can sign it. Well, we have done that now for both the Miles City RMP and the Buffalo RMP. Congress has passed resolutions, both the House and the Senate have passed the resolutions on that agency action, and it is sitting on the president's desk waiting for action. It's really a very exciting time, and it also demonstrates, or it represents, Congress finally stepping back up and reclaiming its legislative authority. You know, we have for so long, or Congress has for so long, abdicated its responsibility and given its authority to these administrative agencies. And this is an example of us clawing that back.
Yeah, I think it's really an exciting time here where a lot of this work is sort of coming to fruition. And, when we talk about the Powder River Basin, I don't know if everybody kind of has those figures top of mind here, but we're talking about 48 billion short tons of coal and that you guys are unlocking here in taking this action. So we are eagerly awaiting President Trump's signature on that CRA. Now, Representative Hageman, there's one thing in December when it gets to this time of year that I ask everyone I talk to. So whether I'm speaking with a politician from Capitol Hill, doing the good work up in D.C., or, the little old lady on the corner, or, the little first graders at St. Margaret's School here in Riverton, I always look ahead to 2026. And I want to know, this could be personal, political, but I always ask folks, what are their kind of top aspirations for 2026 as we look ahead to the new year? Can you give us your thoughts on what you're hopeful for, as we come into the new year?
That is an excellent question to ask all of your guests. There are so many things that are rattling around in my brain right now as to what I would like to see 2026 be. But one of the things is I would like to see that Congress actually carry out its constitutional responsibilities and authorities, do what we are responsible for doing in terms of budgeting, making sure that everybody understands what we're doing, transparency, and really representing the people of the United States of America based upon our legal and constitutional foundation, our background, who and what we are. Our country is based upon freedom and autonomy and personal responsibility. It is based upon community, and the way in which we have created our government is not for an all-powerful government out of Washington, D.C., dictating what everybody can do, but our local governments, our local communities, our local individuals working together to create the very best community for the citizens there that they can have. I'd love to see more of the idea and ideal of America put forward, and us actually realizing the promise that our forefathers gave us when they decided that we should be a republic, not a democracy. When they decided, when they made the decision and looked at codifying our natural rights, our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech and freedom of religion and freedom to peaceably assemble, our Second Amendment rights, our Fourth Amendment rights, our Fifth Amendment rights. I think about that, and I would like to see 2026 really be that year in which people fully embrace America, embrace the greatness of America, embrace the greatness of our past and our future, and look at and recognize and realize the fact that we are not the superpower of the world right now because of all of the negative things, but because of the positive things. Because we look at the individual, we recognize that there are certain truths that you simply cannot ignore. and that America is worth defending, America is worth fighting for, and America is worth protecting.
Well, that is certainly an inspirational look ahead at 2026. I think we all aspire to, really value the privilege, quite frankly, that we have here as Americans. We're all kind of born into different circumstances, but being able to live, work, love, and dream and work towards our goals here as American citizens is one of the most incredible blessings I think that we can have. So, Representative Hageman, I want to thank you as always and wish you a very Merry Christmas as we look ahead to the holiday season, to Christmas, and to the new year. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Merry Christmas, Sarah.
Thank you.